Hey, Spookies. Guess what? I have books. Lots of books. Hey, what's up? So, I thought that tonight, right now, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that I would share with you some of my favorite how-to books, like books on writing, books on drawing, art books, just all kinds of inspirational learning things. I'm a big fan of those kind of books. Someday I'll explain my full story into publishing here, but I found myself at a crossroads at one point trying to write a book and not knowing anything about how to write a book. So I read as much as I could about how to write a book and how to structure a story and how to craft things. And that probably really saved my career there. So I have a lot of favorites that have things that I recommend routinely that I'm super into. I'll explain why I recommend those things, and I'm just going to show you some of my favorite books. So I'll just kind of look through my library a little bit. This is me looking through. I guess I'm walking through a library. So this one's controversial. It's the most thorough thing I've read on story. Famously, Spike Jonze movie adaptation written by Charlie Kaufman really kind of craps all over this book and the idea that books need to be written a certain way or stories need to be written a certain way. But I mean, honestly, if you can't take anything out of this book, I don't know what to tell you. It's insanely detailed. The amount of information in it and inspiration in it is like limitless. It's really amazing. This one just gets so insanely detailed in terms of this kind of stuff. There's grids for everything. Here you got your classical design, minimalist plots, anti-structure, lots of breaking down scenes in actual books. Like Chinatown has a lot of stuff in there. I've gone through and marked this up with all the stuff I know I'm going to be looking at time and time again. Almost 500 pages of great formulas and structures and everything. Save the Cat. So this is one based on, this is the novel version. It's based on Save the Cat, which is for writing movie scripts, written by Blake Snyder, who passed away. I have mixed feelings on it. Honestly, Blake Snyder, not to speak ill of the dead, can come off very condescending sometimes and a little too exacting in what he's interested in. But it takes the concept of structure and outlining and creating a story from start to finish, and it makes it so simplistic, not in a bad way at all, but it makes you understand why a story works a certain way in a very easy to digest manner. So like one of the first things I do when I'm writing a new project, I take Blake Snyder's beat sheet, which I'll show you in a second here, and I kind of line up my story. And I don't think you need to hit every single beat, but you see the weaknesses in your story when you try to line it up. You go, oh, I really don't even have this part, or I could really use some more fleshing out over here. It's extremely useful, and it's a really quick, easy way to kind of see how your structure holds up. So the thing Blake Snyder was like really famous for in terms of Saves the Cat. So Save the Cat, real quick, is you have your hero do something that's going to endear him to the audience. So you have a cat that needs saving. He saves the cat. Everybody's happy. Everybody wants the cat to be saved. That's something that, endears the character. But the real thing is the beat sheet, the Blake Snyder beat sheet. So it starts with opening image, which is your before world. Theme stated in the first 5%. Somebody kind of casually mentions what the story's actually going to be about. Setup goes through all the characters' current weaknesses and what needs to be changed by showing his current life. Catalyst, debate, something kind of brings them into action, into whatever the movie's going to be about or the book. Break into two. They accept the challenge. So the meat of the he refers to it as like the poster or the trailer, as the fun and games. This is where we see the hero in their new world, the hook of the story. So everything that you're pitching in your story is in the fun and games usually. Midpoint, something changes, bad guys close in, all is lost, dark night of the soul or the whiff of death. That's where everything's rock bottom. Break into three, something from the B plot kind of connects the dots and they figure out what they need to do to advance. The finale and the final image is a mirror image of the opening image. So that whole before world where things aren't right and the character's not happy, now that's fixed and we see the status quo as it is now. So, yeah. John Troubies' The Anatomy of Story. This is one similar to Story by Robert McKee that gets really into formulas. There are certain formulas in this that I run every story I create through to make sure it holds up. There's stuff like right off the bat in this that I know I've highlighted. The focal point is the moment of change, the impact when a person breaks free of habits and weaknesses and goes from his past and transforms to a richer and fuller self. So yeah, like anytime I'm thinking a story, I'm thinking, how is the person growing? How are they changing? Why do they need to change? Let me find my favorite bit of information. This formula, W times A equals C. It's weakness times action equals change. So you're thinking of the growth, the arc of your story. You're trying to get that moment of change. That's what your entire story is about. So what's the character's weakness? What's the action they take to defeat the weakness? And that's the change. Just so important, so simple, but it's like doing these puzzles and homework on your own story, you know? Symbolism, plot, metaphors, just it goes into everything. Highly recommend. Always worth having a thesaurus. Nowadays you can just look it up online, but it's always useful to know a better word for, you know, word. Here. What's a better word for word? Name, expression, designation, concept, vocable, utterance, sound, a voicing, form of speech. Word. So when you have a copy editor, you don't really need this, but The Elements of Style is a good book to have just in terms of grammar and knowing what a sentence structure should look like. It's very schoolwork. This is doing homework. This is not fun reading unless you're a copy editor. Hello, Christine. But it doesn't hurt to have this and to take a glance through if you're editing your own work, if you want it to read professionally and not have any trip ups. I used to get movie screenplays too, just to like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind was one of my favorite movies in the mid 2000s, and just kind of reading the script as opposed to watching the movie, getting lost in the movie and the visuals and everything. Reading the script, I think I have Punch Drunk Love here too. Just gives you an appreciation for the story and the screenwriting and how they came to certain scenes. You feel it on a different level, I think. But Anne Lamott's Bird by Bird. There's a certain kind of book. There's one, Writing Down the Bones. Who writes that one? Writing Down the Bones. Natalie Goldberg. They fit into kind of a more poetic take. It's not really nitty gritty, nuts and bolts how to write something, but it's a more kind of thoughtful look at why we write and why we tell stories. Some instructions on writing and life. It's inspirational. If you're a writer, those two books I definitely think are worth reading. Just kind of makes you appreciate the act of writing. It's poetic. It's a little harder to explain, but Bird by Bird, Writing Down the Bones, I appreciate both of those books. Okay, yeah, I almost forgot. On Writing by Stephen King. One of my favorites. Jeez, I didn't even bring it out. I just thought of it when I was looking at the Anne Lamott book, because Stephen King, so he breaks this book into he gets to the he gets to the nuts and bolts. Really technical stuff on writing. Part of it is an autobiography. He talks about coming up with his first books, what he was going through in his life when he was becoming a writer. And then, so you have your how-to writing, how he became a writer, and then a bunch of really kind of specific, detailed thoughts on writing. This one, I couldn't recommend it enough. It's really amazing. Super inspirational. Great book. Read it a bunch of times. Specifically for writing comics, I would recommend Brian Michael Bendis' Words for Pictures. So this is a great book. Obviously, it's got a ton of awesome art through the whole thing, so that kind of makes it fun to go through. Everything you could want here. You got script breakdowns, personal notes. I mean, I'm just opening up to random pages, and it's just all beautiful to look at. A lot of the names: Mike Allred, Bill Sienkiewicz. I don't know how to pronounce it. Sienkiewicz. Sarah Pacelli, Chris Baccello. There's just all kinds of great names giving their advice on here, and lots of fun Q&A stuff. Pick that up. I like to get these magazines when I go out to Barnes & Noble. That's where I go to write. It's well lit there. There's always plenty of tables. I just sit down, have my coffee, and write, and it's a comfortable spot for me. And then I reward myself by checking out their magazines. And Imagine FX is a great one for art stuff. It's got reviews of art from the readers, tips and tricks, tutorials, sketchbooks, reviews of other books on art and art products, all kinds of great stuff. So this is always a fun read for me. You never know what kind of stuff you're going to find in their magazine section. They had like this book on social marketing. It's kind of outdated now because social media just goes so fast and changes so fast. This is, what year was this? It's pretty old. I forget, but I think it's like 4 or 5 years old. And then this is a book on InDesign, which is always good to know for artists and writers alike. Alright, so that's about all I got for you. I just wanted to show you some of my stuff. Maybe next time I'll take just a look at my books in general, see what kind of stuff's in there. I got a big bookshelf, or maybe just my art books. I have a lot of art books on comic book artists and animated series and stuff. That would be kind of fun to look at. Let me know in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, stay spooky.